All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of June 1st, 2020. Those of you that can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, for the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Thank you all. All righty, public announcements. Tim, do you have anything?
No, sir.
All right. Ken?
Just like to give a shout out to the class of 2020. I know they just had their last few days of school this week. They'll be cleaning out their lockers this week, I guess. I think receiving their scholarships too. It's kind of they've had a tough go at it, obviously. When I graduated in '78, I had the blizzard of '78. What was that? A week out of school. These guys were just had it tough. But I just wanted to let everybody know that this Saturday they're having a parade. I call it car parade. I know when we were in high school, the last day of school, you decorate the cars and drive up the road. This is going to hit all the schools in town that are still open. So I'll give you the route real quick. So if you go by your house, you want to go out and wave or beep, or go to one of the other schools. But it's going to start in the library parking lot, 10 o'clock on Saturday. It's going to go down the high school road. Take a left on take a left on 18, go up 139 and left on Chestnut to go to the Woodsdale School. They're going to do one lap around Woodsdale School, come back down 139. Across street from Trukey's, they're going to take onto Washington Street and go by the Frollo and take a lap around the Beaver Brook School in cars. They're going to be led by the police. Then they're going to go back up the high school road and do one lap down the high school road. So if you're out and about on Saturday and you want to make the sign or just watch them go by, give them a wave. I'm sure they'd appreciate it because, as I said, kind of not the normal graduation. And I think they're having the graduation in August. I think it's still not etched in stone, but I think sometime in August they're planning on having it possibly outdoors. But that's to be determined. So good luck to the seniors of 2020.
What time Saturday, Ken, did you say?
10 o'clock, they're leaving at the high school, and then going to be going down 18.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Jim, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
No. Kevin, do you have anything?
I just want to remind the town residents that due to COVID-19, the Secretary Galvin has authorized early voting by mail and absentee voting. As the regular town hall hours, you can go to town hall and you can request a absentee ballot or an early voting application and fill it out and see the town clerk vote. So far, I think they've had over 120 people take this option so far, so that's awesome to see. But just so you know, it is available to you in town. And go to town hall. There's actually applications right outside the door. If it's after hours, you could fill one out and leave it in the lockbox there, or you could go in during regular hours, fill one out and talk to the town clerk, Leanne Adams, to vote.
So you can, when you grab the application, you can fill it out, and then they'll give you a ballot, Kevin, right? If they're open during that time, right?
Correct. Yeah. Normally, you would need a reason why you couldn't vote on election day due to COVID-19. Secretary Galvin has backtracked on that a little bit, so you can fill the application out, see the town clerk, and she has ballots there to vote.
Right. Because that's what I did, Jim. That's what you did too, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
she has the ballots at the front door too, on a clipboard. You can just take not the ballots, the applications. You can just fill it out right there at the front door, put it in the mailbox, and she'll mail you out a ballot too.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Kevin, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Tim? No, you're all set, right?
Everything's closed.
Everything's closed. Not right now. All right, number one on vote to approve minutes of May 26th of 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
I actually just have a question on the minutes, only because it mentions the fire station feasibility study. Scott, do you happen to know if they were able to get it up online yet, or any of the study?
I don't know whether that link there, I know that they had talked about they were gonna have a link to it. But I'll check on that, and if it is up and running, I'll reach out to, Kevin Tachi, and I'll reach out to abingtonnews.org and see if I can get them to give everybody sort of an update.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 26, 2020 as written.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right, number 2, vote for temporary lower quorum requirements for town meeting. Notice posted 5/22/20. Scott, you want to comment on that, please?
Yeah, we're gonna put that off. We are not able, the Senate bill or House bill hasn't passed. It actually passed the House, and it is, went back to the Senate. So until the governor signs it, we can't vote on it. So we were anticipating this was gonna be done last week, or at the worst case scenario, we were hoping today, but we're gonna just hope that it's going forward. I spoke with Allison Sullivan, our representative, and the update I got was that, it did pass everything in the House. I saw the amended version. I'm really not sure why it went back to the Senate, so I can't give you much more than that. But we will have to meet again next Monday, and it may be only for that one purpose, but.
So I get to have another Monday meeting, Scott?
Well, you always meet on Mondays, as long as
But
I
I
can
get
be
to
here.
every Monday. We're meeting every Monday.
Every Monday,
Can we,
until we
vote
get this
again?
done.
Sorry, excuse me. Can we vote on this pending approval of the House? Or is that stretching it?
Well, no, because it's, if we were to do it, it would be pending final approval from the governor, I guess. I would feel more comfortable that we didn't do it that way.
All right, that's fine.
I'm sorry. I wish we could do it, but I just think it's more appropriate that we wait until it's actually legal to do it.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions on that?
No, actually, I was going to ask the same question, Jim. I thought that was a good question. We do have a sense of the board. I think it was kind of pretty much unanimous, a 50 quorum,
Yeah.
unless we changed our mind. So I don't think it's a big deal, and I think it's a good idea, especially with the budget and coming up. We should probably meet every Monday anyway. So.
Okay, so we'll pass on number 2. So number 3, discussion and vote on town meeting and budget. Mr.
Yeah, okay.
Lambiese.
So you do have in front of you, or in your packets, you have the special town meeting warrant, and you have the annual town meeting warrant. So I would like you to vote. You can see that they're both for Monday, the 22nd of June, at 7 o'clock in the evening at Abington High School. The special town meeting warrant, we would want to vote for sure tonight, only because we need to post that 14 days in advance. We can't put that off until next Monday, because that would only give us 13 days to post it, obviously. So as you can see, there's only 4 articles on the special. And as usual, they're just typical housekeeping articles. We have some sick leave buyback for an assistant librarian. We have to cover our snow and ice deficit of $162,460. And then we have transfer to stabilization fund. We have some free cash, $909,288. We have some monies left over from the senior center roof project, and some monies from the building department revolving account. And we want to transfer that into stabilization. And then you can see the last one to see if the vote will transfer, or the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of money to defray unanticipated costs for fiscal 2020 for various accounts in the general fund, or take any action relative thereto. I'd have to have Sue. I think the idea is that we're putting that in if we need it, and we'd bring up a number or an explanation at the special. But I'm anticipating that that's something that'll be coming off.
Scott, you're not looking for recommendations on the articles. You're just looking to get the articles on the warrant, or what?
Well, this is the warrant. What I'm asking you to do is vote to vote the warrant. You're going to ask you to come by town hall and sign the warrant, and this will be what will be presented at the special town meeting as you see it. And as you know, they can be amended on the floor to some degree to, not to increase anything, but to decrease things. But in this case, we're paying our snow and ice deficit for the most part. We're paying in some sick leave buyback, and then we're transferring money to stabilization.
Yeah, Scott, and usually what we do when we have a meeting, and usually when we're all together in the Selectmen's hearing room anyway, and unfortunately, we're not there now. If somebody has questions or whatever, because we'd rather go over it now than when we get to town meeting, that everybody knows, what we're thinking and why we're thinking it. And I mean, I actually have, and I'm going to ask because I have two questions because, and I don't know if you can answer it, and I don't want to put you on the spot. If you have to get back to me or whatever, I'll appreciate it. But it didn't seem like we had much snow this year, but we're putting 162,460 into snow and ice deficit.
Yep.
That's one of the questions I have. And the other one is that we're transferring from the building department revolving account the amount of $150,000. And I would think that residents may question this. So again, I'd like to be able to, at least as a board, be able to explain this when we get to town meeting. And again, Scott, I'm not blaming you. I just don't have an explanation on this.
So yeah, I mean, the big thing here is that we do need to vote the warrant itself. As far as the explanations, I can tell you on Article 2, without, I'd have to pull the budget, but you only appropriated X amount last year for snow and ice, and as mild as a winter it was, you didn't really appropriate all that much. So it's not a surprise that there is some, deficit spending.
That happens every year. I think it's only 25 or 50,000 max that we, and that was one of Mr. Burbine's things. He wanted to bump it up every year.
Right.
It's just the salt alone,
And we never do. We never bump it up.
No, we don't.
No, and I tell you what, we're not going to do it this year. We're going to bump it up a little bit. What I see in here from last year was, I think you had $300,000 in there. We would need, I'd want to have John here or at least to address your questions. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot. Like, I mean, it doesn't take much to have to get out there and drop down the salt. So it's not always plowing. Sometimes it's just a matter of spreading material, and it's not always when you want it to be done. It's, on Saturday or Sunday when you're paying a different rate, I would imagine.
Right.
But yeah.
How about the building, Scott, the building department? Can you answer that? Again, I want you to know I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but whatever you can, if you can, if not, I'll.
So there is a percentage of the fees that he or that the department collects. A percentage of it goes into this revolving fund, and a percentage goes directly into the general fund. And I'm assuming the idea with the revolving fund is they can use it to offset expenses within the department or different things that they want to do. But there's a surplus. There's a lot in there, enough that our town accountant said, we don't need to have that much in there. If you're not anticipating any sort of need for that kind of money. Like if we want, if they came to me and said, listen, we need to institute a program where we're going to put in online permitting and we need to get some new software and we need to do some training and it's going to require some iPads for the inspectors and it's going to be X amount of money, I would expect it would come out of this account and we would use the money. But that's not, nobody's anticipating that at that point. So there's no reason to leave it sitting in there. We certainly could use it in stabilization. As you know, we've cut quite a bit out of the budget itself to get it to a point that we're somewhat comfortable going into next year, to the next fiscal year. But I want to see as much in stabilization as possible. Obviously, if we do come up short, we don't know what the revenue numbers, what the Chapter 70 and the unrestricted government numbers are going to be. We know that when we're anticipating to be worse than last year, so we budgeted them to be worse than last year, but it could be even worse. We do know we anticipate a shortfall in other revenues like the income tax or meals tax and other receipts. So if it's worse than we're anticipating, we want as much in stabilization as we can.
Right,
So that's
okay.
really it. And you know what? Sue would be happy, and I can make sure that she's on the call next Monday, because they're great questions, and she can give you a more in-depth answer than that.
Yeah, no, but if Sue said that they had too much in their budget, that I'm okay with that. It's just that going forward next year, I won't be on the selectmen, but hopefully we'll not. I don't want to say we're not going to give them to them, but I would assume we'd have looking at lowering the budget, especially with giving 150,000 back. So, but that's me. So, but that answers my question. Any other members on any of the special town meeting? Silence is golden, they tell me.
No, what do we have to, the previous town manager, do we have to pay any money for his, or is he all paid?
As far as I know, he's all done. He's all paid. Yeah.
Well,
we're not.
Sometimes you have buyback and stuff.
Yeah, there's no special town meeting action needed for it, and there's no annual town meeting action. So whatever his final monies came out of, or it's already accounted for, at least as far as I can tell.
I have a question on the same thing that Tom mentioned. Now, that revolving accounts, I thought they dropped down to 0 every year. I thought you can have up to a certain amount in there, but I thought. Yeah,
and I'm not sure what the amount was set on that account. Again, it's a good question for Sue. And to be quite honest with you, there's not a lot. I've not seen that done. So I'm really not sure what the reasoning behind it was when the town decided to do that. Typically, like, in Duxbury and in Whitman, the money just, went into the general fund. So, 100%. So what the, purpose behind this fund is, I can't answer yet. Like I said, I would think that it would, in my anticipation, you would do something like this because there are certain expenses that come up and they can be pretty, big expenses if you have a plan, that this is a good way to save for it. And I'm not sure what else is paid for out of this. Again, I think we, get some information from Sue, but as far as I know, this is how you've been doing business for quite a while.
Anybody else? Again, silence is golden. So I think we'd probably entertain a motion then to, at least on the warrant for the special town meeting.
I'll make the motion to accept the special town meeting warrant as written.
Any second?
I'll second that.
All right. Further discussion, please? None? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye,
I,
unanimous? All righty. So Scott, that's the special.
That's the special. Now you also have the annual in front of you. And as you can see in the annual, we're paring it down as much as it's practical, as we've discussed with Sean, that we'll probably only be doing the budget-related articles and anything that we absolutely have to do because of budgeting. And that's anticipating that we're going to reduce the quorum rule, and we wouldn't really want to deal with anything that we couldn't otherwise take care of with everybody participating. So particularly when you get down into Article 3, that's where you're going to see the capital items and some of the larger purchases. We've pared it down, but we've also tried to keep stuff that we thought we really needed in the warrant. The police department has 2 cruisers that we're purchasing from free cash. The fire department has the deputy fire chief's car with free cash. The Board of Health has to replace some trash and recycling carts. Initially the request was for $30,000, and we paid it down to $15,000, again out of free cash. We need fire alarms over at the town hall and the library. That's $58,000, again from free cash. The drive-through window that's been discussed that needs fixing. We'd really like to see that get done. That's out of free cash, $9,550. And the MS4 permitting out of free cash, again, that's a requirement. This is, I believe, the second phase of that. And, this is coming down from the feds and into local DP and then down to us. Purchase install waste oil furnace out of free cash, also for $10,000. Again, it's a necessary item. So we're bringing these to town meeting, and as you know, and as we've discussed, we've got a spending freeze in effect, and that's going to go on until such time as we've gotten our numbers back from the state, until we're comfortable with our revenue and with our other expenses. And at that time, we'll look at these items and then just decide, whether to go forward with them or not. But we'd like to have them already approved and ready to go. They're all coming out, like we said, these ones are out of free cash. You have a healthy stabilization number. We're putting, a healthy amount into stabilization. And if we don't do these projects, we'll have that option of, at a special town meeting, reverting this into stabilization and then using it for other purposes as needed. But right now, I think we'd like, like I said, we did a lot of work to pare down the budget as much as we could. We took after, since we had first met, over $1 million out of it. So I think we're in good shape. I feel that we're in good shape, or as good a shape as anybody else walking into this. That's why I'd like to keep these items on there. They're pretty much, things that we really need and really could use. So, and like I said, again, if we decide that the revenue and if things aren't looking as, good, or if we have bigger shortfalls than we anticipated, we won't pull the trigger on these unless we have to. Going down the rest of that, the water department, obviously that's all coming out of water receipts. Same with the sewer project, and then Strawberry Valley Golf has to replace some fencing.
So Scott, I see 26 articles. Are you gonna tell us which ones, are these all moving forward? You want all these to move forward, or you want to tell us which ones aren't, or?
So I think what's gonna happen is what I'm hoping is we will get through articles 1 through 4. When we get into the planning articles, we'll get through, just bear with me for a minute, and
So 5 is the CPA article.
yeah, I think we're gonna do those. I think we're gonna get pretty much down to these petition articles. So when you get up to like into 23, you start getting into, so we have, these are the road acceptance articles. I don't think we'll be able to do those, mostly because prior to town meeting accepting those, the Board of Selectmen have to hold a public hearing. And it's not just a public meeting, but it's got to actually be a duly noticed public hearing that people have the ability to participate in. So it'd be pretty difficult because it'd be, in this particular case, you have to have the plans and the layout and the road acceptance all available for the public to see it and to be able to, comment on it or ask questions on it. The other articles will actually probably mostly be pretty quick articles. Some of them are housekeeping articles. I'd be happy to go through each and every one of them tonight with you if you like.
But I know that I don't want to go through all of them, but I'm looking at, and Ken, if you want to go ahead, but I'm looking at 13, 14. I don't see in 16. I don't know if that's supposed to be 15 or.
Yeah, you have 2 Article 16s. I noticed that typo the other day.
Yeah, we picked that up at the Finance Committee last week. I know we were going to change that.
All right, so and again, usually if we had our selectmen's meeting, we'd all be meeting, we'd be going over what we thought, and this is the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that I think that we're seeing it, but, the school wants $250,000 to purchase and install security cameras, systems and entrance door security upgrades in Abington public school buildings. Again, is that a capital improvement or is that something we got to do again? And then, Scott, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. You probably cannot answer it all at once when I think, but the police want $120,000 to repair or replace siding on the police station. Again, I don't know if that's, capital improvement or whatever. And then the fire chief wants $160,000 to purchase, equip, install upgrades for 3 fire apparatus. So I'm going to assume that residents are going to have questions, and I certainly do, only because I'm just looking at it again. I'm putting you on the spot, unfortunately.
Well, no, that's quite. So the $250,000 to purchase and install security cameras, Beaverbrook School. So they don't have the security, and they don't have the security at the entryways, and they don't have the ability to see and buzz somebody in from wherever the office area is. There isn't even any wiring in place that they can, so it's not even an upgrade. It's basically starting from scratch with a security system for the building. So in that, yeah, I mean, I think it's very important that they have that.
Sure. No, I agree.
The $120,000 these will be, they are capital excuse me, and they will come out of free cash, I'm guessing, unless somebody changes their mind. $120,000 to replace the siding in the police station. The siding that was put up there was not put up properly. It is falling. It's coming off the building. It's breaking off in chunks. You can mostly see it on the side. If you're facing the building, it would be on the right-hand side and along that side. But there's no reason to believe that they put it on right everywhere else and not there. You can see some signs that if they didn't install it according to manufacturer's specifications. We've checked with town council on it, and I could tell you from past experience, it's not a fight we're going to win if you want us to try and go after the contractor or the installer. It isn't. It's too much time has gone by, and if they're even still around or still viable, it just isn't going to happen. So, and then we have discussed it. We had checked with Greg Corbo on it, and it's just, and in my own experience and chasing after stuff like this, we should just get it done and, move on and take our lumps. $160,000 for the fire chief. He actually has a very good plan. He has multiple engines. I want to say 3 engines. And so this money is to upgrade, and he's actually putting a little bit into each of the engines. A lot of it is safety stuff where pieces are falling off, maybe the stainless steel steps or whatever they're made out of to get up onto the engine. The welds are starting to decay over the years. He has a really good maintenance program, at least from, the report that I got and the discussions I've had with him. And he needs to keep all 3 running. And what he's going to do is obviously the one that needs the most and that is the most used will get the most of the money. But this is really dispersed over 3 engines and increase the life of 3 engines. And as you know, if we have to go out and buy a brand new one, we're going to spend $1 million or so, if not more.
Scott, and all these 3 were brought up with the finance committee anyway, right?
Yep, they've all been vetted. The finance committee has voted pretty much on everything. They haven't voted on the Article 16, which we have to update. And I'm not going to ask you to vote on this one tonight anyways. And what I really would like you to do, ask me any questions you want tonight. Obviously, I'd love to go over it. But get some questions together, and I'll make sure that whoever you want on next Monday night, Sue can, will obviously join in. But if you want to have a couple questions with the fire chief, I can get them on. And, like I said, any of these articles, if you want to discuss them with somebody, let's get them to zoom in and get some answers. But they have all been vetted. I've had the opportunity to actually discuss them with everybody. I recommend them. I think that they're all worthy articles, including Article 16. I just think we have to adjust the number on that one.
Okay. That's it for me. So, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that Article 16. That's the only one that the Finance Committee wanted to pass over. But,
yeah, so my recommendation is not to pass it over, but my recommendation is to reduce the amount. They don't actually want $10,000. They actually only need a little over $3,000. I'll probably recommend that they appropriate, or that they change that number so it's up to maybe 4,500. And again, they're subject to not spending it, just like everybody else who's going to have an article that's not a borrowing article, that's a free cash article.
I would recommend. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what I would say is not knowing what it was all about, I took a field trip out to Griffin's, met everybody out there. It's an amazing group. It's an amazing piece of land. It's an amazing amenity to the town. It's I can't speak highly enough about it. Great walking trails. They're doing a lot of work. I spoke with our the public works director about this because one of the concerns was, hey, if we're spending X amount of dollars on a piece of equipment, would we be better off purchasing that equipment for our own public works? And doing a hand-me-down program. And that wasn't something that he was interested in. Matter of fact, John Stone said, these guys save the town a lot of money.
They do.
They save a ton of money because it would tie up guys in time and equipment that John doesn't have, to go out there and spend the time to keep it in the shape that they keep it in. So what they were asking for was actually a simple, a rider mower, something a little better than residential quality. John said that the one that they were looking at is acceptable and appropriate for what they do. They have a place to store it. It's a secured shed that they got with volunteers. And I did check with our insurance carrier to make sure that the volunteers, if they run over somebody's toe or something, that, we'd all be covered, and we are. So, you'll see that article as 16 with a reduced amount to 4,500.
All right, I'm involved in the garden over there for the last 4 years, and I got to give those people a shout out because they do a lot of work, and every tool they got is hand me down. I've given them a couple of trailers from my scrap metal hobby, and to give you an example, I watched Jack Bailey mow the lawn on a tractor that had no hood over the engine, and the mower deck was held up by a bungee cord. In the other tractor, the little lawn tractor they got, Dick Hanna had to stop mowing because he couldn't see through all the smoke that it was blowing. So they do need, they put together a bunch of donations, but they should have something decent. And I know they will take care of whatever they get. So, and they're not a financial burden on the town at all, as far as I see.
Anybody else?
You're gonna see in Article 17, that one's gonna change also. So Article 17 was when I guess at some point last year you appropriated $100,000 to have the roof redone over at the senior center. And somehow a grant, they obtained a grant that ended up covering the cost for it. So what this article had proposed was taking some of that money, and I know some of it was also going into free cash, but there was some of the money that was left over plus other money in another fund they were going to use to do some work on the parking lot and replace doors. When I did a little digging into this article, what we see here is actually the parking lot does need to be redone in a very, it's probably urgent. I can only imagine that, unfortunately, when I went to visit, everybody was there working, but there were no seniors allowed because of the current pandemic. But I could see if that place is in full swing, that parking lot is just an accident waiting to happen. There's potholes, there's cracks everywhere where water is going to get in and get under it and lift it and create, you can see where there's ponding that probably freezes up. They didn't really have a good plan for the doors. I don't know, the main entrance and sort of the couple of the other exits were fine. There were a lot of ancillary doors that seemed to probably need weather stripping and some maybe general repair and maintenance. I'm not recommending that we do anything with the doors right now, but probably will do something significantly less than 48,000 in the future as just some general maintenance. But what they definitely need and what the recommendation will end up being is, I think we put it to 95,000 for, they got an estimate for just doing the parking lot over. So you'll see that will be updated for you by next week too. But that one, again, we had discussions with FinCom about that last week. And they understand it, and I believe they did vote in approval of it too.
The section of that parking lot, I believe, is we sold as a utility easement. I'm wondering if the contractor will pave that area once he's done digging it up.
I don't know if no, I don't think that was part of the parking area. I think
That's
that
up
is,
off the parking lot. That's up on the grass on the,
yeah, it sort of runs along.
it's off the parking lot.
Yeah. He's already given $40,000 that we're getting for that easement when it goes through. And you know, you can consider that part of an offset towards this. But this is monies that you already have. You know, this is money that's coming out of this your program income fund, which Sue can explain that better to us. But and it's also coming off of money that was already appropriated for the senior center roof that we didn't use. So, you know, although it's an article and it's a spending article, you know, we're not taking it out of free cash. We're not asking anybody to, you know, to borrow it for it or anything.
Right, but to get to that, to get to the pickleball court, you know, they have to use that parking lot.
Yep.
And it is a mess. It's, you know, I would hate for something to happen to one of our seniors, one of our volunteers, even if they weren't a senior. I'd hate to see that parking lot's a mess. You know, and again, the senior center isn't open yet, but the pickle court is, correct? You know, so people going down there, so they're going to keep using that driveway. So
There's also a
I'd certainly be in favor of that.
Yeah.
Scott, on the Article 13, was that only for Beaverbrook School, or was that for all the schools?
It might, I'm not sure. I think it was predominantly the Beaverbrook. I mean, the biggest expense there would definitely be Beaverbrook, but there may be something that's going over to Frollo that would help them monitor what's going on.
I'm just wondering. I mean, I know
I'm thinking it's predominantly there from what I got.
Yeah, because Woodsdale might need something too. I mean, I don't know, but you know,
it's the one that stuck in my mind, but it is possible, and I'll get further clarification on that.
Yeah, and they can explain that. Like I said, we can either have, you know, superintendent come in or somebody else, or if we have to, unless you get an explanation, Scott. Or
yeah, I think you know, if there's some easy ones like that, shoot me some emails. But I mean, obviously, if you want to hear from the department heads, they're all more than happy to jump onto the Zoom meeting for, you know, 15, 20 minutes. You know,
no, but if you, I didn't mean to interrupt, but if you hear from them and tell us, I don't have a problem with that. But if other members do, they can request that they Zoom in with us.
you know, Article 11 is a big article, and I don't think a lot of people know about that. It's kind of a bridge that, you know, it's over by the police station and the highway barns, but small bridge, unnoticed. But you know, that might be something that residents have some questions about, because they would never know driving over it, the condition that it's in.
Mhm.
And I just didn't know about the Beaverbrook School, if that was other schools.
In the bridge, you know, and again, that's a public safety thing that we thought it was important to leave that in and not put it off.
I'm sure the fire chief will do he does a great job with grants and everything else and explaining everything. So, you know, I would be interested to see. Seems to be quite a few things here. You know what I mean, between the new deputy chief's car, you know, 160 for. There seems to be a few different things. I'm curious to see what is needed there.
And yeah, because just so you know, I mean, all these questions came to my mind, and they came to, you know, the finance committee's mind too. So the deputy's chief's car is got
it's an older one, right?
Yeah, it's older. I think it says over 120 or 130,000, pretty hard miles on it. So, you know, and obviously this is the guy who, you know, it's a take-home vehicle. He's basically, you know, the incident commander. If the chief isn't available, or if there's multiple things going on, this is the next guy. And that car is that's a vehicle. That's a command vehicle. so there's a lot of bells and whistles that go along with that. But yeah, he said, we did talk about it, that, it is in bad shape what he has now. Again, the discussion I had with the finance committee, and what I'll reiterate to this board and to town meeting, any of these free cash items, just because we're approving them, that the spending freeze is still going to be in effect. And, until we're fully comfortable, or, the other one actually breaks down and we have no choice but to buy one, we're not spending the money. That's just the plan.
In the police department for the two cruisers, are those replacing frontline? I mean, are those like needed this year, or could we wait a year? Or
again, so with that, I would ask the chief to maybe comment on it a little bit more. But what I do know is, because there's a program and the cars do get beat up, especially the frontline cars.
absolutely.
You have the, I think what the plan here is, it's a 3 and 2 plan. So we're doing every other year, or every couple of years you do 3, and so my concern with it is again, I'd like to see the 2 funded.
Yeah.
Because if we can do it, let's do it. If that's our plan, and that's a plan that's been thought out and put together, and we decided to follow it. If in fact we get to a point where we can only do 1, or I only free up 1, then fine. The problem is because if we don't do it, if we just don't fund it, and then
I don't want to fall behind either. Yeah.
Yeah. So then next year we're looking at, you're supposed to do 3, but you're probably only going to do 2. So now you're actually 3 in the hole going into the year after that.
Understandable.
So yeah, again, everybody, from what I talked to and what I've looked at and what I've seen, they seem to have a really good program. There's obviously always areas to improve upon, but as far as handing cars down and using them to their fullest, they seem to do that pretty well in this town.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a bunch of questions. Ready?
Yep.
Article 7, $85,000 from free cash for the reserve fund. I don't remember the reserve fund ever being $85,000. Wasn't it 30,000 generally? Or?
Yeah. So what I've asked this year is where we're putting so much into free cash, into stabilization. And my concern is, if we have a shortfall, we've cut everything pretty tight. The budget's very tight. And a shortfall would require us to go to, for the most part, if we needed anything big, we're going to have a special. If we had to go into stabilization, we'd have to go for a special. Whereas they were predicting a possible second wave, if that was to happen, we may not be able to have a special. If they vote this quorum rule and it's only for this time period, and then all of a sudden we need to have a special, and we can't, and we need to get some monies, my thought process here was to put this into the reserve fund, and then we would be able to go to the finance committee and I don't know, typically in the towns, Duxbury and in Whitman, we would go to the Board of Selectmen and to the finance committee. Not sure what the process is here, but at the very least, we would go to the finance committee and say, look, we've had a bigger shortfall on garbage collection than anticipated. We had, our insurance numbers came in higher than we predicted, or, whatever the case may be. But this gives us a little bit more of a buffer if there is a problem, and we don't have to worry about perhaps not being able to have a special town meeting. And again, it would, it would carry over. It's not something that, it's not there that can just easily be used. It's something that we would go to, finance committee and or the selectmen.
Articles 8, 9, and 10, they're yearly articles, and they're not really It's something we always do every year, and it's not really a lot of money. But my concern are the articles that follow that, and I mean, if you add them all up, it's pretty much over $1 million. I guess my question is, a lot of that stuff should fall into the capital plan, shouldn't it? And I don't understand. I mean,
8, 9, I'm sorry, you're on 8, 9, and 10?
8, 9, and 10 are just regular articles we do every year, so that's not a concern there. But
Yeah.
11, 13, 14, 16, 16B, 17. These are all things that I would think would fall under the capital plan. It just seems like it's $1 million.
Yeah, all I can tell you is, I was really hoping when I started that you would be done with town meeting. So
Sorry, Scott.
We were too, Scott.
how,
We were too.
how this was organized, and you know, I did not do a.
I gave you the out. I asked you the question. I said, would you prefer delaying it? Remember? That was a couple meetings ago. No, I just have a
prefer you
concern
went
that,
in the Wayback Machine and had it done.
I mean, yeah, the public schools are asking for $250,000 for security camera. You would think that would be capital expense.
Right.
You know, $120,000 for siding that we all knew had to be done. Why isn't that in the capital plan? I just don't understand.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, I don't know when these items came up, so I don't know if it was. So I mean, I'm assuming your capital plan is more of a long-term plan that you were looking at, where it seems like, you know, for whatever reason, they finally decided, you know, let's get these cameras done. You know, the siding, we're tired of it falling off. I don't know why it's not in, or wasn't put into some sort of a matrix with the capital program. You know, it certainly would have made sense to me, but again, I'm not sure, you know, what the process is when they developed this originally.
Right, Scott, will you do me a favor, and Ken, I'll let you go back, but will you check with the chairman of the FinCom too, just to see if he had any questions of why it wasn't in the capital plan, or if you don't mind? Go ahead, Ken, thanks.
Happy to, yeah.
Now, with a lower quorum, and let's just take an example. Let's say the Griffin's Dairy, you know, with a lower quorum, and the recommendation is to pass it over, but if it's on, they can still vote to approve it.
Yeah, I don't recommend that they pass it over, and I'm hoping that gets updated.
But that's just an example. I mean, all these articles are the same way. Wouldn't it be prudent, if we're really worried about our pocketbook, to not put these articles on the warrant and leave them for the fall town meeting? You know what I mean? Then there's no chance of that money being spent, and because you
don't know.
You say the town meeting can vote to spend it, but we might not spend it because times are tough. Well, just don't have it passed, and then you can't spend it. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the idea, the other part of it is we don't know if we'll be able to have a town meeting. That sort of has a lot to do with the rationale behind this. Would like to think we're going to have a fall town meeting, but that may be a winter town meeting, or it may be your next annual, if we can't get to it in the meantime. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, there's just a lot of what ifs with the pandemic and how long it's going to last, and when there's going to be, you know, restrictions going to be lifted. Are they going to come back again? My thought process is to get as much business done as we can, so we're not hamstrung.
So spend as much money now as we can in case we can't vote to spend money later on in the year.
I appropriate the money, but if we can't afford it, we're not going to spend it. Now, you know, obviously, if you're not, you know, if town meeting's not comfortable doing that, it'll all go into stabilization. But that's, you know, then you're going to be voting to take it out of stabilization to fund all these projects at a special.
Article 17, I'm a little confused as the funding for that, because didn't we take that $48,000 and put it in the special, in the
No, this 48,000 is coming out of a program income fund, so I'm not really sure what that is. We'll have to ask Sue
Yeah,
what that is. So there's different monies that this is coming from.
so,
But we did take some of the remainder. There was some monies that came out of that project that are going into stabilization. And I'll make sure Sue's on the call next week just to kind of clarify where those, because there are three different, the program fund, and then there's some of the wherever the roof money
there's
came.
still $100,000 left in the roof account, and we're taking 52 for this, and 48 we're putting into the,
Yeah, there's some that's going into stabilization. 52 is for this, and then the other money's coming out of the program income fund.
okay, so, all right. All right,
But again, there's an important, that parking lot is in dire straits. It really is an accident waiting to happen.
yes, and it's a capital project as far as I'm concerned, because
I
we
agree
know
with you.
it needs to be done. It needs to be done for years. I just don't, I've always never liked if people are bypassing the capital plan. Capital plan is so important, and sometimes we take it lightly. Things move up on the list, and there's a reason for that. Because we've been very conservative spending money. I just don't want people to bypass the capital plan. Well, if we can't get the money from the capital plan because they're short this, we're just gonna put a separate article in. I don't know if that's what's happening here or not, but, Tom's shaking his head because he knows this has been happening forever, when you're on the finance committee, the capital plan is a capital plan committee. I just hate to see people, $10,000 for a piece of equipment. Yeah, we need it, but shouldn't that have been in the capital plan for the highway department to get that money? But that's all I'm trying to say. And you're not gonna have to listen to me in a month from now. So I just.
Well, I'm gonna put you on the committee.
But Ken, I got a funny feeling, well, most of us will be at town meeting, so.
Most?
Should be all,
Most,
Are you not going, Tom?
I don't know yet.
couple of lame ducks,
We need,
Depends on when we have it.
So now Article 18 has got to do with the bylaws. Are we not gonna take that up because has to do with money, or? I thought we were gonna try to trim as many articles as we could to get people in and out.
yeah, I think we decided, I'm not sure if we're gonna keep these treasurer collector ones on, because I think that they can all be done pretty quick. They're mostly housekeeping things.
You'd be surprised what the the $30 million budget gets passed by, and then
I've had 15 town meetings behind me. Nothing surprises me, but yeah, again, if you'd like, especially on these ones, I don't mind asking Sonia to chime in, and we can have her answer this, for 15 minutes, or I can ask her to send an email out, whatever you guys prefer, but certainly, it's her article.
Do you need a vote on these articles tonight?
No, I'm not looking to do the annual until next week.
Could we have maybe the chair of the finance committee, the treasurer collector, and anyone else that you think may need to chime in? Maybe they can just be forewarned, with police, fire chief, that sort of stuff, in case we have questions, or maybe we won't. Maybe if you guys, it's up to you guys. But
Ken, I agree with you because, and I agree about the capital plan and all the towns that I've been in, that was, was always made, you know what? If it's capital, get it in the capital budget, get it into the capital plan. And again, I'm not saying that anybody's skirting it, but I don't want anybody to even think, I don't want residents to think that somebody's skirting it, that it should be in the capital plan. That's why I brought it up, right at the beginning. I went from 4, I went all the way to 12 or whatever.
But a perfect example of that would be the fire chief came to one of our meetings and said there's unbelievable frame damage on this that we didn't know anything about. So that wasn't in the capital plan because all of a sudden it happened, and that's understandable.
Right.
The parking lot, and believe me, I'm not going to vote against the parking lot, especially when it's not coming out of it, the money. But it should have been in the capital plan, and maybe it was. But if it was, then why isn't it addressed there?
Yeah, and I agree. And since we're not voting on this, I wouldn't mind seeing people next week if Scott wants to, get in touch with me during the week or whatever, find out who exactly we want, or if any of you say, hey, I want the police chief, I want the fire chief, I want, senior, senior citizen, whoever to come in, I'm okay with that too.
I think most of the department heads have probably already stated their case to the finance committee. So I think if we have Matt, Sonia, and Sue, who the finance team, along with Scott, they'll be able to answer most of our questions.
Okay, the only thing and I agree, the only thing, except you take a chance where one of them may not know
Yeah.
the reason the police chief wanted something, and I'm not picking on the police chief, or the fire chief, or someone else, but
I can easily
I think
ask.
Scott has a little bit of a duty to do anyway, and I didn't mean to interrupt Scott, but has a little bit of a duty to do, and we can go from there, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm not bringing this up to put you on the spot, Scott. Just want to let I tend to ask a few too many questions, but I think people want to know. I try to ask the questions that people at town meeting are going to ask. That's all.
It's what it's a fair point, and it's great. I can add it to my goals and objectives because
Maybe maybe an email would be good. If we could get an email the next few days, then we can kind of base it off of that. Do we necessarily need anyone on or this and that?
yeah, and you know what, it certainly is appropriate. I mean, Sue's always offering to be on, so she'd be happy to be on. Matt, it certainly is appropriate to have him on for a meeting anyways, for finance committee. And I would anticipate that we'll have Sean Riley on next week also, because we are definitely going to vote on we're hopefully definitely going to vote.
Oh, you're right.
I would
We're
have
gonna
no
wait for
problem. Tom, I
Yes.
would have no problem next week if we're going to vote the articles to put them on the warrant. But if we want to actually take votes on our recommendation for them at the same time, I think that would be probably work. If anybody cares what our recommendations are, but
Ken, say that. I'm sorry. Say that again. I got lost in the translation.
next week we're going to vote to put the articles on the warrant. Correct?
Yep.
But I think we could probably vote on them at the same time, especially if we're going to have people there that can answer the questions that we have.
Okay.
Vote our recommendations at the same time. We don't have to, but we could.
Right, and Scott doesn't want that tonight anyway, so which is fine. So I'm okay with that.
So I mean, I don't even think we need to talk about the rest of them, because at some point some of these might come off. Now, is it true the petition ones have to go forward no matter, or no?
I think what will happen is they'll have to be there, and they'll have to be on there because they otherwise would have to be withdrawn by the petitioner. But we're not able to take action on it, so I think that's the action that will be taken, is that we'll have to. In Duxbury, we called it indefinite postponement. I'm not sure what term you may use here, but basically just saying we'll come back to it next year.
IP.
Postpone without prejudice. IP. You remember that? Yeah, we IP.
I do. IP. Yes.
Yeah, and that's probably what will happen, because we don't have the petitioner's permission to remove it.
Can I just go over Article 22, which is for the PEG funding? Last year we voted this article, but I think the wording was not all inclusive or something. It didn't include. I think last year's article was only funds that came in. At that point, this article is to clear up any funds that they already have in accounts. Is that?
I think the article was. Was a difference between enterprise account and the type of account. I had a long conversation with someone from the Cable Advisory Committee, Mrs. Bezanson, and to try and get some clarification on it, because the first time I read it, it was a bit confusing. And I will send you, she actually had a really good written explanation for it. So I'll send that over to the board so you guys can all see it. It was a couple paragraphs that really explain what her whole point with this was and the difference between what you did last year and what they wanted to be.
I thought last year we did what they wanted us to do.
I think it was, according to them, there was some sort of a change to it, and they think it was just it was a minor change. If I'm not sure, it's like between whether it was 53 F and 3/4 or 53 F and a half or something to that point. But there was something in that, and because it was mind-boggling and a lengthy explanation, and it took a phone call also for me to wrap my head around it. So I don't want to try and explain it without sending you that information.
Right. And the other question I have on that article, last year they had that article and they inserted funds, because my understanding is they need to have a budget approved every year. And I don't see any funds in that for the yearly budget. Last year they put a budget, an amount that they were going to spend, and they can't spend beyond that. I don't see any funds. I don't see a budget in this or the budget for the community access. So
yeah, I'm not aware of that.
And maybe Jim, I don't want to put Jim on the spot, but maybe Jim knows about this too. You were on that committee, but I know we approved a certain amount of funds last year that they were used for their expenses, which is fine. But I don't know. I don't see it anywhere here. So I mean, are they going to be able to operate without funds allocated to them? Because they're not supposed to spend any money unless there's a budget.
They're supposed to send an invoice for expenses. Yeah, they have to set a budget, but I was also told if they need something that's not in the budget, they send an invoice to cover that cost. Any of the money the town gets from the cable companies is directed for the Abington Community Access Media. It's not a fund where you could say, oh, hey, they didn't use all this money, let's pull it out and put it to somewhere else. That money is pegged for ACAM and ACAM only. You can't say, hey, there's a lot of money in there, they haven't used it in years, let's take it. You can't do that.
I know that. I agree with you 100% on that. You can't
Okay.
use it for anything. I think that the state says that, but they're supposed to have an actual budget number that they are allowed to spend every year.
Right, and Ken, I thought we did an up to an amount.
We voted a budget for them last year because this article that they presented almost word for word, and they added money numbers in there that they were allowed to spend. So I mean, I just want to make sure there's accounting in that department, because it doesn't sound like, you know, if they had a budget last year, shouldn't they have a budget this year? So that's all.
Yeah, we could definitely. I think Sue can give us some good answers on that. But she did tell me that as far as I know, is what the process is now. Is that on a monthly basis they do submit invoices for the money to flow through. What they do beyond that, I'm really not sure. Again,
So they submit invoices, but they have to have where the money's coming from. So Sue must know where the money's coming from.
well, it's coming out of this fund, this
Take account.
enterprise account. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You think it'd be wise if Lisa was here next week to answer questions on that?
Well, let's see her email, and if we need her, you know, I'll talk to Scott about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll certainly talk to her again too, but let me send you, because I think her anticipation when she wrote that was the explanation that would go with this. So it would be Article 22, and then this is why we have Article 22. Apparently that's not how this was formatted, and I don't know that you've ever formatted your warrants that way in the past at all. But it was a good it helped me wrap my head around it. So let me send it to you guys so you'll get a better understanding.
I just got a text from Alex that says, what was voted last year was for an enterprise fund. In fact, the letter 57 and a half or whatever it is actually a revolving fund, which you cannot put cable access money into. This article will clarify that. Does that make sense?
I just know, well, last year we did what they asked us to do, so that's all.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, I think that the intention, from what I understood, the intention was for it to be in an enterprise account, and whatever they did because of whatever general law that you referred to, put it into the other type of account, the revolving account. So
I'd rather see the email from Lisa. Not that I'm doubting what Alex is saying, but I'd rather see the email from Lisa so I can try and wrap my head around it too.
It does clear it up a bit.
Clear as mud. Anything else, gentlemen? Any on the warrant or anything? So we're not gonna vote on the warrant?
Not on this one, unless you want to.
Too many questions.
I don't want to. Gentlemen, anything?
I'm good.
All set.
Timothy?
Good.
Good? All right. Ken?
All set, thank you.
All set? All right, Jim and Kevin?
Fine.
All set, thank you.
All right, so we'll take a motion to adjourn unless there's something else that we need to discuss or whatever.
Town manager report.
Town manager report.
Oh, you sure?
Don't you have an agenda in front of you, Tom?
Number 3, Tom.
What is on your agenda?
Number
Didn't you
7.
write it?
He has an agenda, it's just not ours.
If you want to adjourn, I got no problem either.
It'll
His
be brief.
agenda is definitely,
I thought that was the town manager's report.
See that? I guess I do have to start typing it out and sending it to you, Tom.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. If you could add it to the packet, I would appreciate it.
Okay, but it's not written out this week. But in the future, I'll make sure there's something. So yeah, obviously, most of our efforts are going into the budget these days. I'm trying to keep an eye on the couple of the House bills that are affecting town meeting and what town meeting is going to look like. Being open for a week was not a problem. We didn't have any issues. Everybody seems to have, seem to have gotten used to our town hall and the way it is, and wearing masks and having plexiglass everywhere. I did send out a letter today. We sent it out to all of the restaurant owners. We're starting to get the calls, and as we know, in anticipation of outdoor dining will be what's going to be allowed first in this phase 2. So we sent the letter out just stating that, if you have any interest in expanding your outdoor dining or, having outdoor seating that you might not already have, then you have to submit a plan. We did not have what we're finding is that there really isn't any way to give a blanket waiver with the planning like I was hoping. But analysis and a review of what our current bylaw allows for in our regulations, it isn't permissible. It would just leave us open to, scrutiny and possible lawsuits. There is some pending legislation, as I think I've mentioned to you in the past, that will allow you, your board as the local licensing authority, to allow for this outdoor seating and for the service of the alcohol in this outdoor area. And there are areas, and a lot of the restaurants are in districts that would not need any further action from zoning or from the planning board. Now, there are some areas that may be a little more difficult and they may need some other relief. But we're gonna have to look at it on an individual basis as they come in. So basically, the letter did go out. It's asking anyone, any restaurant who is interested to do this, to submit a plan to your office, to me. You know, showing us exactly what they want to do, where they want to do it, and what their plans are for segregating it and getting into the bathrooms and keeping it lit properly, and, you know, all the safety regulations that'll go along with it. When we get each individual plan, myself, the fire chief, the police chief, the health director, the building officials, and the zoning officer will take a look at it and, you know, make any recommendations to the property owner or to the restaurant owner that we see fit. Ask them to make any changes, and once we have an acceptable plan, we're going to bring it to this board. And what I'm hoping is that maybe it'll be next Monday, maybe it'll be the following Monday, but whenever it happens, we'd hope to do it once where we could say to you that we have 5 or 6 places, they've been vetted, they meet all of our safety requirements, all of the regulations, and that we recommend that you approve them for this. It will be a temporary outdoor seating license, allowing the alcohol to be served outside. It will probably state that outdoor entertainment won't be allowed unless you have already been permitted for it. You know, so a place like Barrett's that already has outdoor TVs and whatever, but we wouldn't let them expand that into any other areas. The whole thing sunsets on November 1st if the legislation goes through. Obviously, if this board wanted to bring it back a bit, we could say that we'll run this or allow this up until such point in time as you can do 100% occupancy within your building on the inside, at which time you don't need the outdoor seating anymore, or cap it at November 1st or both. So that's about it. You know, I think we're going to see what comes in. We'll put a pretty good plan together. We'll put a great plan together. We'll bring it to this board. Then we'll ask you to approve it. But we're hoping that we'll be able to work with everybody to get something going and get them opened up as soon as possible. I think that I'm going to say the date was June 8th. So I'm anticipating that we're going to hear. And I've already heard from 3 or 4 of the restaurants. I think the big question will be whether the legislation that will allow you as the local licensing authority to approve it is going to be huge, because otherwise they won't be allowed to serve the alcohol outside. And that's, you know, obviously a large portion of the income and the attraction for people who, when they want to go out to dinner.
Scott, I may be wrong, but I believe it's in today's executive order that the select boards are going to be able to approve the outdoor, even if they're not originally allowed outdoor. But, so just something to look into. I haven't read it. I'm just going off what I heard today.
Okay, because I was looking and I was pretty much surfing the Mass Legislature at the end of the day, and I listened in as much as I could of the press conference. So I haven't seen it. The other town managers, kind of checked with them. They're waiting also and expecting this to be passed. If it didn't come out today, I would imagine it'd come out pretty quick, because I think this is one of, you know, the ones that the governor really wants to happen.
He may have said that he did imply that he wanted it to happen really quickly. So he may have said it's going to come out in the next couple of days, but I know he did mention it today. And
I'll do some more digging. And I was reaching out to Allison Sullivan to get some information on some other bills, and she's been really helpful and really good about answering my millions of questions about, you know, how a bill becomes a law.
I'm just.
Some of you get that reference, right?
Yep.
You're aging yourself. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know the Board of Health, it was on their agenda tonight, and they discussed it, and they want to see things move quickly through them too, and they didn't seem to have many problems. They couldn't really take a vote, but they just want people to know that they're on board and trying to streamline the operation. So.
Yeah, and I, you know, and I put that in this letter that went out today, just basically telling everybody that, you know, all of the committees and all of the individuals and all the agencies involved want this to happen, and we want to make it as seamless as possible. And we will get it done, you know, one way or another. It's going to happen. We want to get these guys opened up. We want everybody to be opened up. I wish we could, you know, I wish we could make it even easier. I'd love to see them open tomorrow at 100%, but not happening.
That it, Mr. Lambiase?
That's all I got.
There is one other thing too, and Scott, I sent you an email about this earlier, but we received the subcommittee, we received the police study draft, and I know I sent back to you, I sent back my comments that I thought it was fine the way it was written, and I did recommend that we send it on to the police chief, just for accuracy and for clarity reasons, as recommended by MRI. So we might be seeing that. I mean, if obviously if there are some things in there that may not be accurate, certain figures like, you know, the number of police officers and whatnot, we might have to have a subcommittee meeting. But if not, you may see it. You guys might see it soon.
Yeah, my anticipation is I'll try and have a meeting, and I did talk to the chief about it today, and we're going to try and have a quick meeting, him and I, and discussion on it when he's got more of a chance to review it. Probably a quick call with Alan Gould or someone from MRI. We want to make short work out of it, so and get it out, and you know, obviously start working on. There's a lot of great recommendations in there that you know, gives us a good. It's a good tool. It gives us a good roadmap. So I'm looking forward to you know, working with you guys, working with the chief, working with MRI, and start, you know, following the recommendations.
Yeah, they're looking like a total of like 53 different recommendations in 6 different categories. So that was very thorough. And Kevin, we haven't talked, but what did you think about that too, or what do you think?
Yeah, so I think MRI, I think they've done an outstanding job. It is very long and very thorough. And again, I would kind of echo what Ken said a little bit, is what MRI was talking about is, you know, I have no issues with it. I want to see it move forward. I just, you know, I would like to see the chief check it for factual errors, which is what MRI asked. You know, we paid them for the study, so, and they did a really good job with this. So I'm looking forward to the board getting the final copy. And, you know, we have some things that we got to meet on. I say we meet as soon as we can and move it forward.
I know when we approve the final copy, they present 6 copies, one for each of the members of the board and one for the town manager. And then they'll come in and go over it all with us. And then they also will go to the police department and go over that with all their officers and the whole force. So that's part of the package deal when we sign up with these guys. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would hope we'd be able to get an electronic version of it too, that we can, you know, post on our site.
Yeah, that is part of it. There's 6 copies, 5 selectmen, 1 for the town manager, and an electronic version.
Awesome.
So.
So that's the Ken Coyle and Scott Lambiase report right there. So
I just got a notice email from the town moderator. He turned into our meeting a little late, so just so I'll make you all aware of this. If you're not going to finalize the annual town meeting warrant tonight, please be sure that the special town meeting warrant gets set and posted by this Monday, June 8th, which we already did the special town meeting, correct? 14 days prior to June 22nd meeting. ATM warrant must get posted 7 days prior to June 22nd. So that's Monday, June 15th. We're going to have meetings all Mondays until postcards to all residents telling where they can view copies of warrants must be mailed to all residents 7 days by June 15th. So that is from the town moderator, Mr. Sean Riley, and I appreciate him sending me that. Just to make sure that all of you have it and the residents that are listening have it too, so.
I got one last thing.
Well,
I got a text, this Saturday at Town Hall from 10 to 12, there'll be a rabies clinic. Cost is $15. Just throw that out there.
that's for pets, right, Jim?
Pets, kids, whatever.
Motion to adjourn.
Selectmen.
Scott, you're gonna need us to sign that special town meeting warrant, correct?
Yep, it'll be up in the office, so, whenever you guys can get in there over the next couple of days, that'd be great.
Either 8 o'clock in the morning.
Tell Nancy I said hi.
I'll be there sometime. All right, I heard a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Gentlemen, enjoy your week and see you next Monday.
Every Monday.